Hello friends, I'm Matt and I'm obsessed with finding my purpose for being born. This is me sharing my journey along the way and the lessons that I learned with anybody who wants to join along. So today is day 17 of my 100 Days of Gratefulness. And I'm actually pretty excited about this day because even though it's early in the day, it's only 9:40 in the morning right now, there have been so many lessons that I've been able to learn thus far from this event. This event that I say this truthfully, not tongue-in-cheek, I am grateful for. So this morning I woke up and I had been prepping to order the iPad Pro, the new one that got released. Today was the first day to be able to order. I'm in there, I'm prepared, I'm thinking, yes, I'm going to get it, it's going to work, the model that I want, etc., etc. And then there's a lot of problems that are going on with the site, and eventually my order date was, or my shipping date I should say, was actually kicked back a few weeks later than expected. And in the past, I probably would have stewed on this a lot. And it would have been something where even throughout the entire process of going through where my cart wouldn't keep working, which I think is a common problem that I was seeing people posting online, I would have been very frustrated. And by the end of that, maybe I would have gone upstairs to my family and I would have complained about what would have happened. And it really would have taken up a lot more of my day. But I'm happy to report that it didn't. Even whenever all those problems were happening with the site, I was working on my breathing. I was realizing that, all right, I don't need to hold my breath and I shouldn't hold my breath. Instead, let me keep breathing. It'll work. It'll go through eventually. And also to be able to keep the perspective. Because at the end of the day, being able to spend thousands of dollars on a certain device just because it's going to help me to create more, that's not a luxury that so many people have. That's not a luxury that most people have. So many people in the world are just trying to eat. And so being able to keep that perspective too of why would I be frustrated at this? It's not a fundamental right for me to be able to get a new piece of tech. It's truly a privilege of the life that I lead. And then after that, I was also able to still maintain that jovial and truly light demeanor, especially going up to my family. Because things like complaining are contagious. Those are those things where sometimes we feel as though, oh, let me vent this, let me get this off my chest. But I think at least the experience that I have found is that can be a rather selfish endeavor. Because sure, maybe it helps us, which I'm not even convinced that it does, but what is the effect that that has on other people? What is the effect that that negative energy brings to them? And I think that with that contagiousness, with the way that it is contagious, however you're supposed to say that, it makes other people start looking at, oh, but this is not going right in my life. And then you end up getting into this cycle of looking for the negatives. But instead, I didn't allow that quote unquote negative situation. I don't need to say quote unquote because I can use air quotes. This is a video. Situation affect any part of my day afterwards, especially those precious moments that I'm able to spend with my family. Today's the last day that I'm going to be here at home before I go and I make my trip. And so if I were to let a silly thing, such as having to wait a few more weeks for a piece of tech, get into that headspace and ruin any of those moments that I have with them, shame on me. And so it's for that. Even though it did not turn out as I expected to be able to get something in 3 weeks and maybe now it's going to come in 6, I am thankful for that. Because in the grand scheme of life, even a year from now, I'm not going to be affected by whether the iPad comes on one day versus another. But what I am going to be affected with is this sort of growth that I've been able to make thus far, this sort of growth to be able to stay present, to be able to find the lessons that are in all of the events of our life, the good, the bad, the suffering, whatnot. And at the end of the day, this is not suffering. This is not suffering in the least to have to worry about something like this. And it's in taking these lessons and continuing on in this sort of path that a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if I'm lucky to still be alive, which statistically speaking I am, but you never know what happens in life. It's this that's going to lead to a much greater peace and a much better fulfillment, I think, in addition to the impact that I can make on other people as well. So I would encourage you today, find those opportunities, those things that did not go according to plan, and find the lesson in it. Find the purpose. Find the meaning. Find something more. Or at the very least, if there's something that you're going to complain about, especially to another person, pause before you do that. Take a breath and think, will this actually help me? But maybe even more importantly, will that help the other person? what will the effect be on them? Because I think that if enough of us, and granted, I haven't shared this with anybody, so I don't think anybody's going to be watching this anytime soon, but if more of us did this on a daily basis, think about how much suffering we could take away. So much suffering we could not introduce to the world, because so much of that suffering, it just comes from here. The situations that happen to us happen, and then we create so much of the suffering ourselves. So let's work to really avoid that together. Let's try to not even bring that into the world. So until we meet tomorrow, until we talk tomorrow, I should say, for day 18 of my 100 Days of Gratefulness, wishing you the absolute best. I hope you have an absolutely amazing, blessed day, and sending you lots and lots of love, my friends. Bye now. That was one take.